Good day to all. It feels really good to feel connected again. I hope you're all doing good. I'm fine. In the last English class, I gave you a brief introduction to the poem Keeping Quiet by Pablo Neruda. I hope you all remember. Kindly have the copies of the poem in your hands. As I always say, you can understand the poem, the nuances expressed by the poet, the subtle thoughts and the concepts and the ideas given by the poet can be very well understood only when you have the copy of the poem in your hands. Okay, I hope you all have the copy of the poem in your hands, and I'm going to read the poem first, and I'm going to give you stanza by stanza explanation. And at the end of the session, I'll give you the poetic devices that are used by the poet. Okay, so let us begin. Keeping Quiet by Pablo Neruda. Now we will count to 12, and we will all keep still. For once on the face of the earth, let's not speak in any language. Let's stop for 1 second and not move our arms so much. It would be an exotic moment, without rush, without engines. We would all be together in a sudden strangeness. Fishermen in the cold sea would not harm whales, and the man gathering salt would look at his hurt hands. Those who prepare green wars, wars with gas, wars with fire, victory with no survivors, would put on clean clothes and walk about with their brothers in the shade, doing nothing. What I want should not be confused with total inactivity. Life is what it is about. I want no truck with death. If we were not so single minded about keeping our lives moving, and for once could perhaps a huge silence might interrupt this sadness of never understanding ourselves and of threatening ourselves with death. Perhaps the earth can teach us as when everything seems dead and later proves to be alive. Now I'll count up to 12 and you keep quiet and I will go. So, what is the main idea given by the poet through this poem? And that is the calm reflection and the quiet introspection. I'm repeating it again, the calm reflection and quiet introspection. That is the basic theme given by Pablo Neruda to the entire humanity here. Because he says, in the mad rush towards acquiring material things in our lives, the entire human race has lost the kind of introspection that is needed every now and then to analyze our day to day activities, the kind of selfish deeds that we do just for our own progress in our lives. That's what he's trying to say. The absence of calm reflection and quiet introspection has led to lot of wars, and not only that, we are disturbing the entire ecological system. We know the food chain. When any one of the elements gets disturbed, the entire chain gets collapsed. Not only the food chain, the ecological chain, the environment, everything he is discussing about. I'm going to explain to you stanza by stanza here. Now we will count to 12 and we will all keep still. For once on the face of the earth, let's not speak in any language. Let's stop for 1 second and not move our arms so much. All he is asking us to do is just don't move so much. Stop your mad rush towards acquiring things. Stop for a moment and do that introspection. And what is that introspection really? It's a kind of arriving at realization after sitting and thinking quietly about the kind of things that we do on a daily basis. Are we doing good? Are we doing for the benefit of the entire humankind? Are we benefiting our immediate neighbors? Or what are we doing to our human race in its entirety? That's the kind of question posed by Pablo Neruda. And he doesn't stop at that. He goes further and he gives a kind of solution to the problems faced by the entire humanity, done by humanity towards itself. And that is just keep quiet. That's the importance of the title, Keeping Quiet. That's the title given by Pablo Neruda to this poem. Okay? So he says, just for 12 seconds, keep quiet and see, introspect within yourself what kind of lives we are leading as an entire human race on this planet Earth. That's what he's trying to give to us here. Okay? It would be an exotic moment without rush, without engines. We would all be together in a sudden strangeness. So I told you when I was teaching you poetic devices itself that poets usually employ the poetic device named enjambment when they want to convey an idea which continues to um, following lines. No, it will not end within a line. Okay, it would just continue along. So if you look in the next second stanza, you could see it would be an exotic moment without rush, without engines. We would all be together in a sudden strangeness. So the lines are continuing to the next line and they're not ending in one sentence. That poetic device is named as enjambment. Okay? So fishermen in the cold sea would not harm whales, and the man gathering salts would look at his hurt hands. He's taking a simple man from the social stratum, that is a fisherman, okay, in the stanza, and he's trying to drive home a point that when fisherman looks at his hurt hands, he would stop hurting the whales. Okay, he would stop hunting the whales, and there's a huge crisis in the sea right now because we are hunting fishes like crazed people. We are hunting fishes, we are harming the marine life as we speak now. Not only that, in the first two lines of the second stanza, he talks about an exotic moment. And what is that exotic moment? Exotic meaning unfamiliar, something that the entire human race, be it a man or men, human race in its entirety, have not faced this kind of a situation where they keep themselves in a quiet way and analyze and do things in a better way. That is something new to the entire human race. That's why he uses the word exotic, something that is unfamiliar, something that they have never done before. That is why he says, when you're in that exotic moment as a human race, everyone, when you keep quiet and start analyzing, you would find yourself in a sudden strangeness. There is an alliteration here, sudden strangeness. Okay, so he calls that as a strangeness because it is kind of a strange behavior, kind of a strange experience, which have not been felt by any humans before. That's why he uses the word exotic, and he also uses the phrase sudden strangeness. So he says when the fisherman looks at his hurt hands, he would stop hunting the whales because he's not only hurting the whales here, he's not only putting an end to the marine life which is existing in the ocean, but also he's hurting himself. At the end, what are we gaining? We are only rushing towards acquiring things, accomplishing things in life, but to what extent, at what cost? That is the question posed by Pablo Neruda again and again. And he stresses on the fact that the self introspection is going to bring about a huge change. It's going to bring us a sudden strangeness, but in that strangeness, we have the answer. That's what Pablo Neruda is saying through this poem, Keeping Quiet. Those who prepare green wars, wars with gas, wars with fire, victory with no survivors, would put on clean clothes and walk about with your brothers in the shade doing nothing. So, as I told you, he picks simple people belonging to the lower social stratum, and he also addresses the people who are in power. Okay, and he addresses everybody across the social stratum. Look at you. What are you doing? Are you even listening to yourself? Kindly keep quiet and listen to your own small, still voice that wants you constantly, that comes out of you and wants you to analyze, to self analyze. What is the result of self analyzing? This calm reflection, this quiet introspection is the self realization, the kind of harm that we are committing not only to us but also to others. And how to put an end to all this? By doing this quiet introspection and calm reflection. And when we do that, what happens is we arrive at the answers that we are eagerly waiting. How to stop the wars, the kind of biological wars, the kind of, they are saying, those who prepare green wars, wars with gas, wars with fire. He is also mentioning the kind of wars, the nuclear wars, that the fine example is Hiroshima Nagasaki case that happened in the year 1945 during the Second World War. So he's also indicating that. So all the brothers, he's using a symbol here, the word brother in the 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth line of the third stanza is a symbol. Brothers is a symbol, and he uses this symbol to drive home a point that we all are brothers. Even though we are separated by languages, we are separated by countries, we are living across the boundaries, we have barriers in between. And even we are living, we are having boundaries, and we are living across the barriers, these are man-made, these are man-made barriers, self-constructed boundaries that we have erected for ourselves. That's what he is saying. So even though we are living across the nations, we are bound together, because whatever we are doing to one human being, one race of people, is going to affect everyone. That's what he's saying. So as a human race, as general population, when we start thinking along the lines of the actions that we are performing, why we are performing that, how we are performing that, in a quiet moments of our calm reflection, we are going to receive answers. And that's what he's saying. Okay, so he says, when this men who spread wars, okay, wars with gas, wars with fire, what they could achieve is, when they stop doing nothing, when they stop doing all the things that they are doing, and they keep quiet for a moment, what they could do is, what they could arrive at is, they would become brothers once again. That is why the word brothers is used as a symbol, is called as a symbol here. He is calling out for the universal brotherhood here. Okay, that is why the poem Keeping Quiet by Pablo Neruda is very, very, very important. And that is why CBSE has given this poem to us. It is very important, my dear people, because as we all go through the very tough situations right now, the one thing that is very, very, very important right now is, how are we going to face it together, and how are we going to eradicate this common problem, and how are we going to arrive at the solution here. Okay, so, and walk about with their brothers in the shade doing nothing. So once again, all these people who are hurting each other, not only themselves but also others, not only others but also the entire environment, okay, they will stop for a moment and they would come together in this common feeling of brotherhood. Okay, with that, this third stanza is coming to an end. What I want should not be confused with total inactivity. Life is what it is about. I want no truck with death. Okay, so what he says is, so okay, I am propounding this idea of keeping quiet, this calm reflection and quiet introspection, but kindly do not confuse what I'm saying here with total inactivity. That's what Pablo Neruda is saying. I don't want you to keep quiet all your life, or all the days, or even for so many hours. What I'm trying to say to you here is, try to stop for a moment and try to analyze your actions. That's what he's trying to say. And what I'm saying should not be confused with total inactivity. Life is what it is about. I want no truck with death. So he's associating total inactivity with death here. So total, when human beings stop their activities completely, and that state could be definitely called as the state of death. So he says, do not confuse what I'm saying with a state called death. Because life is what it is about. I want no truck with death. He's clearly saying that my inactivity should not be confused with death. Okay? If we were not so single minded about keeping our lives moving, and for once could perhaps a huge silence might interrupt this sadness of never understanding ourselves and of threatening ourselves with death. The last three lines is a very good example of enchantment again. Okay, so if we were not so single minded about keeping our lives moving, so in this idea of moving forward, keeping ourselves active all the time has resulted in the lack of social empathy. In other words, it has resulted in social apathy. That's what he's saying. There is no connection whatsoever with another human being. We are not thinking about how our activities are going to affect others. We're not thinking anything of that sort. We keep on moving forward. We keep on moving our arms so much. We keep on urging ourselves in achieving so many things. And in this mad rush, in achieving, in accomplishing, in acquiring material things, what happens is we lose the sense of brotherhood. We lose the sense of purpose, and there is no silence. So he terms this activity, this continuous activity, as sadness. So, how can we prevent ourselves from experiencing this sadness? Is he says, when we go deep within ourselves, when we become still, when we start keeping quiet, and that keeping quiet should result in self analyzing, which would eventually result in self realizing, and that would really help us in interrupting this sadness and of never understanding ourselves and of threatening ourselves with death. So, we humans would stop killing each other. There won't be any wars. The result of the wars would be the complete destruction to the entire mankind. That's what he says. So, coming back to the third stanza, he says, victory with no survivors. Yes, we are fighting against each other. Yes, we are declaring war against each other. But what is the end result? Who would be left behind to celebrate this victory? Nobody. That's the meaning for the line, victory with no survivors. So you have the victory, you would be having victory because ultimately one side is going to lose against the other. But where are the survivors? Because the fisherman who's catching the fish, his hands are hurt and the whales are dead. Both of them are losing their lives in the entire process. That's what Pablo Neruda is arriving at here. Okay, so if we are going to stop this war against each other, all we should do is keep quiet, go deep within ourselves, and analyze and arrive at the solutions. That's what Pablo Neruda is saying again and again through the various examples and analysis here. Perhaps the earth can teach us. The next stanza is so beautiful, kindly pay attention. Perhaps the earth can teach us as when everything seems dead and later proves to be alive. So, earth, he says, you could look at earth and you can learn, he says. And he compares earth here to the teacher. So again, earth is used as a symbol here. And also, you can say that he is using a poetic device called personification. Earth is personified as teacher here. Okay, as when everything seems dead and later proves to be alive. Whatever is seeming as dead on the surface would come alive when we look at earth. For example, if we are sowing seeds, we will not disturb the earth the very next day or the next day or the day next. We would leave the earth to do its own work, and after quite some days, what we would see is the magical and the miraculous result of earth's work, and that is germination. We would see small saplings sprouting out of the seeds that we planted earlier. That's what he says here, okay? Perhaps the earth can teach us as when everything seems dead and later proves to be alive. So he compares the inactivity that he's propounding here through his poem, Keeping Quiet, with the earth. Okay, so look at the earth, learn from the earth, because what earth principally teaches the entire mankind is patience. You humans, be patient. Try to have a harmonious and happy relationship with humans. Try to understand the other people and kindly analyze what you are doing. Look at me, I'm giving life year after year, day after day, month after month. I'm giving new life to the humans. Why can't you do the same? So he says earth is a teacher here, and it teaches that what seems dead in the first place would later become alive. So even though it would appear that we are not doing anything by keeping quiet, what we are going to achieve eventually is we would arrive at better solutions. We can create problem solving skills in humans, and we can arrive at better world solutions. That's what he's saying. Okay, now I will count up to 12 and you keep quiet and I will go. See, so he again says, now that I have given you the idea of keeping quiet, now that I've shared my opinions with you, I want you to count up to 12, and now I'm going to go to different areas of the earth and I'm going to do the same with the other people. With that, he ends the poem. Okay, so the different poetic devices used by the poet here is cold sea, which is transferred epithet. Even though the sea is cold, it's not only that, it's the attitude of indifference, exhibited by the fishermen and all the people associated with the sea and sea business. Okay, cold sea is transferred epithet here. Brotherhood again is a symbol here. Earth is again a symbol here, and earth is both the symbol and personification, as I told before. And anaphora, two consecutive lines starting with the same word. And in the first stanza we have, let's not speak in any language, let's stop for 1 second. So those two lines are the examples for anaphora. Again we have sudden strangeness, hurt hands, clean clothes. All these are examples for alliteration. Again, children, what is the definition for alliteration? The repetition of initial consonant sounds. So these are the examples for alliteration: sudden strangeness, hurt hands, and clean clothes. Okay, and again, from the beginning I told you the entire poem is written in enjambment. Thank you so much. See you again.